How to Train Your Dragon is widely celebrated not only for its breathtaking animation but also for its distinctive voice cast and the vision of its creative team. The main voice actors brought remarkable depth to their characters, combining their previous experience in animation, theater, and musical performance to create personalities that felt authentic and emotionally resonant. Baruchel, who voices Hiccup, the inventive and sensitive young Viking, was known prior to this film for his work in comedy and supporting roles in films and television. Baruchel had experience in both live-action comedies and voice work, including animated projects, which gave him the versatility to portray Hiccup's awkwardness and emotional vulnerability. His performance captured the essence of a boy struggling to find his place in a society that prizes strength and heroism, while also allowing moments of humor and charm. Baruchel's subtle vocal nuances gave Hiccup a sense of realism that resonated with audiences, helping to define him as a modern animated hero rather than a traditional, overly heroic protagonist. This role would become a defining moment in his career, opening opportunities for further voice work and recognition within animated storytelling. Gerard Butler, voicing Stoic the Vast, Hiccup's father, brought a commanding presence to the film, drawing on his experience in action films and dramatic roles. Butler had previously starred in films requiring physicality and intensity, and he adapted this gravitas to voice acting, giving Stoic a paternal authority that balanced warmth with the weight of leadership. The interplay between Butler and Baruchel created a compelling father-son dynamic, one that was central to the emotional core of the story. Butler's performance emphasized the generational tensions and differing worldviews between father and son, capturing both the humor and poignancy of their evolving relationship. America Ferrera, who voices Astrid, brought her unique energy to the film, drawing from her background in television and theatrical performance. Ferrera's expressive delivery conveyed Astrid's fierce independence, determination, and gradual warmth toward Hiccup. Her vocal performance was precise yet playful, conveying a warrior spirit that was both credible and endearing. The chemistry between Ferrera and Baruchel helped anchor the romantic subplot, allowing it to grow naturally within the larger narrative of friendship, personal growth, and adventure. The supporting voice cast was equally noteworthy. Jonah Hill as Snotlout added comic energy with a slightly exaggerated bravado, drawing from his background in comedy films and improvisation. Christopher Mintz-Plasse, voicing Fishlegs, delivered a quiet, analytical presence, balancing the ensemble with intelligence and subtle humor. T.J. Miller, as the impulsive and energetic Tickle, brought a chaotic vitality to the character, enhancing the comedic beats while keeping the tone lighthearted and fun. The ensemble cast together provided a spectrum of personality types that reflected a community with varying strengths and flaws, allowing the narrative to explore themes of growth, courage, and friendship in a nuanced way. Beyond the voice cast, the creative team behind How to Train Your Dragon played an essential role in shaping the film's aesthetic, narrative, and emotional resonance. The film was directed by Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois, both of whom had extensive backgrounds in animation and storytelling. Chris Sanders, who co-directed Lilo and Stitch, brought a talent for creating emotionally grounded characters and imaginative worlds. His expertise in balancing humor, heart, and adventure was evident in the way the dragons were designed. The humor was paced, and the emotional arcs were structured. Dean DeBlois, known for his work as a screenwriter and storyboard artist, contributed a strong narrative vision, particularly in developing Hiccup's journey of self-discovery and his bond with Toothless. The collaboration between Sanders and DeBlois allowed the film to maintain a coherent tone that blended epic adventure with intimate family and personal moments. The writers worked to adapt Cressida Cowell's novel into a screenplay that was cinematic yet faithful to the spirit of the source material. The screenplay emphasized character growth, ethical dilemmas, and the hero's journey in ways that made the story accessible to both children and adults. Their work involved numerous iterations, focusing on dialogue that would feel natural for young Vikings while retaining humor and subtle emotional beats. The narrative structure relied on a clear three-act progression but allowed room for moments of quiet reflection, comedic timing, and action sequences that showcased the dragons and their interactions with humans. Animation director Tom Moore and the supervising animators were instrumental in bringing the characters to life visually. Character animation required meticulous attention to how dragons and humans moved together in shared spaces, balancing realism with fantasy. Facial expressions, body language, and subtle gestures were refined to convey personality and emotion. This level of detail ensured that voice performances were matched seamlessly with visual storytelling, making characters feel alive and relatable. John Powell's score was another pillar of the film's success. Powell, a composer with experience in both live-action and animated films, used orchestral textures, thematic motifs, and rhythmic drive to mirror the emotional arcs of the characters. The music underscored moments of flight, danger, and triumph, and subtly highlighted the nuances of relationships between characters, particularly the bond between Hiccup and Toothless. Powell's compositions contributed not only to tension and excitement but also to the film's lyrical and poetic qualities. Producers Bonnie Arnold and Howard Lowry guided the film's production, managing complex logistics while protecting the creative vision. Arnold, with a background in producing high-profile animated films, emphasized character-driven storytelling and emotional authenticity. Their role included fostering collaboration between artists, voice actors, animators, and composers, ensuring that each element supported the story's themes and tone. The visual development artists and production designers were equally vital, designing the Viking world, dragons, and environments with attention to culture, folklore, and imaginative realism. Their work set the stage for the animators to craft believable movements and interactions. This layered collaboration between writing, animation, direction, and music gave How to Train Your Dragon a cohesive identity, combining technical innovation with storytelling heart. Together, the voice cast and creative team created a film that balanced emotional depth, humor, adventure, and spectacle. The actors' performances were amplified by the skill of the animators and the vision of the directors, producing characters that felt alive and enduring. How to Train Your Dragon left a significant mark on popular culture, children's media, family entertainment, and audiences worldwide. From the moment it was released, the film resonated with viewers of all ages, blending epic adventure with nuanced emotional storytelling that transcended the typical boundaries of family animation. One of the most immediate cultural impacts was the way the film reshaped perceptions of animated heroes. Hiccup, a young boy who is small, inventive, and socially awkward, defied traditional hero stereotypes. He did not rely on brute strength or aggression, but instead used intelligence, empathy, and creativity to solve problems and form bonds. This characterization encouraged audiences, particularly children, to embrace individuality and think critically about courage and leadership. The film's approach inspired conversations among parents and educators about alternative role models in media, highlighting the value of emotional intelligence and problem-solving over purely physical prowess. The film's depiction of dragons as intelligent, expressive, and emotionally complex creatures also influenced how fantastical animals are represented in family entertainment. Toothless, the Night Fury dragon, became an iconic figure in animation because of the subtle ways in which he communicated emotions through body language, facial expressions, and interactive behaviors. Audiences quickly formed emotional connections with Toothless, elevating the dragon from a mere sidekick to a central, memorable character in popular culture. This representation of fantastical creatures as sentient companions capable of deep bonds with humans has been emulated in subsequent animated films and television series, signaling a shift in the treatment of non-human characters in family storytelling. The film's impact extended beyond storytelling into visual and interactive media. The design and animation of dragons, the Viking villages, and scenic landscapes influenced concept art trends in both film and video games. Young artists and aspiring animators cited the film's character design, environmental textures, and dynamic flight sequences as inspiration for their own creative work. In schools, art programs, and online communities, students and hobbyists began recreating dragons and Viking architecture, reflecting the way the film encouraged imaginative engagement across generations. The accessibility of the story, paired with its rich visual design, made it an effective entry point for children into art and animation appreciation, while also appealing to adults who admired the technical sophistication and narrative depth. Musically, The score by John Powell and the inclusion of songs performed by the cast enhanced the film's cultural footprint. The soaring orchestral pieces accompanying dragon flight sequences became synonymous with adventure and freedom, inspiring viral clips, fan videos, and covers on social media platforms. Toothless interactions with Hiccup, underscored by melodic cues, often became reference points in memes, GIFs, and online discussions, further embedding the film into digital culture. Musical and sound moments became shorthand for emotional resonance and excitement, helping the film maintain visibility beyond the cinema experience. Fans created online compilations and tutorials mimicking flight choreography or dragon behavior, demonstrating the participatory culture the film inspired. The film also sparked a significant merchandise wave, with plush toys, action figures, collectibles, and apparel reflecting both the dragons and the human characters. Children's play patterns were influenced by the narrative, as imaginative play often centered on flight, exploration, and dragon-human partnerships. These tangible forms of engagement reinforced the emotional connections formed while watching the film, strengthening its generational reach. Theme parks responded to the popularity of the franchise by creating immersive experiences, including rides, live shows, and interactive exhibits, which allowed fans to inhabit the world of Vikings and dragons in a real-world context. The global appeal of these experiences highlighted the universal resonance of the film's themes and the appeal of its imaginative world. How to Train Your Dragon also shaped conversations about identity, acceptance, and belonging in modern family entertainment. The film addressed generational conflict, societal expectations, and personal growth in a manner accessible to children while remaining meaningful for adults. Hiccup's journey to find his place in a community that values conformity over individuality sparked discussions about the importance of diversity in personal traits and approaches. His bond with Toothless modeled cross-cultural and interspecies friendship as a metaphor for understanding and empathy in human relationships. These themes contributed to a larger discourse on representation in media, emphasizing that heroes can be defined by compassion, intelligence, and emotional courage, rather than solely by conventional heroic traits. The generational significance is seen in the way parents shared the film with their children, and then discussed its lessons and emotional moments, creating intergenerational conversations about values and ethics. The film's reach extended into social media trends and fan communities. Fans of all ages created fan art, animations, and digital content inspired by characters and scenes. Online forums discussed the mythology of dragons, speculation about backstories, and analysis of the narrative arcs. Cosplay communities adopted characters like Hiccup and Astrid for conventions, further embedding the film into contemporary pop culture. Viral moments often focused on toothless playful expressions or scenes of dragon flight, demonstrating the emotional resonance and relatability of nonverbal storytelling. Fan covers of songs from the film, as well as orchestral renditions of Powell's score, appeared on video sharing platforms, keeping the film culturally relevant years after its initial release. Children's media as a whole was influenced by the film's success. The combination of mature themes with family-friendly content set a precedent for animated features that do not shy away from exploring grief, fear, and moral dilemmas while maintaining humor and adventure. The success of How to Train Your Dragon encouraged studios to pursue stories with more nuanced character development, sophisticated animation techniques, and complex emotional narratives. This shift affected global animation production, influencing how family-oriented films were conceived, written, and marketed internationally. It also helped normalize narratives in which younger protagonists challenge societal norms and pursue unconventional solutions, a theme now evident in several modern animated films. The global audience reception further underscores the cultural significance of the film. In Europe, North America, and Asia, the movie's portrayal of dragons and Viking culture resonated across cultures, transcending language and regional storytelling conventions. Its universal themes of friendship, courage, and personal growth allowed it to be embraced by audiences who did not share the specific cultural backdrop of the story. The production of How to Train Your Dragon was a complex and innovative endeavor, blending cutting-edge animation technology with imaginative storytelling and meticulous attention to detail. The behind-the-scenes processes reveal the immense collaboration required to bring this cinematic world to life, from voice recordings to storyboards, concept art, animation, and post-production. The film was developed at DreamWorks Animation, where the directors Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois spearheaded the creative vision. Both had backgrounds in storytelling that emphasized character-driven narratives, and they approached the film with a clear understanding that the bond between Hiccup and Toothless would be the emotional center. This focus shaped every production decision, from character design to scene composition, ensuring that the animation supported the narrative rather than overshadowing it. Voice recording was a critical first step in shaping character performances. The actors recorded their lines before much of the animation was completed, allowing animators to reference natural speech patterns, inflections, and emotional beats. Baruchel, in particular, recorded multiple takes of Hiccup's dialogue to capture a balance of awkwardness, intelligence, and emotional vulnerability. Baruchel's improvisational instincts were often incorporated into the final script, giving Hiccup moments of humor and spontaneity that made him more relatable. Gerard Butler recorded Stoic's dialogue with a commanding gravitas, but the directors encouraged moments of tenderness and subtle humor to reveal the father's internal conflicts. America Ferrera recorded Astrid's lines with an emphasis on assertiveness and playful sarcasm, providing a vocal anchor for the character's strength and complexity. The recording sessions were iterative, with actors revisiting lines after storyboards were refined and certain sequences reworked. This integration of voice acting and animation early in the process ensured a naturalistic interplay between dialogue and physical movement, allowing characters to appear fully realized on screen. Storyboards were essential in planning the visual storytelling and pacing. Sanders and DeBlois worked closely with storyboard artists to explore character movements, camera angles, and the choreography of dragon flight sequences. Storyboards often included multiple versions of scenes, testing different emotional beats, humor, and action timing. Sequences like Hiccup's first flight on Toothless evolved through several storyboard iterations before arriving at the final, emotionally satisfying version. Deleted concepts from early storyboards included more slapstick humor and extended dragon training montages, which were later streamlined to maintain narrative momentum and emotional resonance. These revisions demonstrate the director's commitment to balancing spectacle with character-driven storytelling. Animation techniques employed in the film were groundbreaking for the time. The team used advanced computer-generated imagery to achieve realistic movement for both dragons and human characters while maintaining expressive stylization. Toothless, for example, required sophisticated rigging to allow a full range of facial expressions, body movements, and subtle nuances that conveyed emotion without relying on speech. The animators studied real-world animals, such as cats, horses, and birds, to inform the dragon's behaviors, integrating characteristics that would make them feel alive while remaining fantastical. Flight sequences were meticulously choreographed, combining keyframe animation with simulated physics to achieve fluid, dynamic aerial movement. These sequences required a careful balance between realism and cinematic flair, ensuring that each moment of dragon flight felt exhilarating while maintaining believability within the film's world. Collaboration between animators, visual development artists, and designers was continuous throughout production. Environmental design involved creating a rich, layered world of Viking villages, rugged cliffs, forests, and icy fjords. Color palettes were carefully chosen to reflect mood, season, and emotional tone. The animators worked closely with the lighting team to ensure that each scene's lighting enhanced mood and depth, whether capturing the warmth of a quiet family moment or the dramatic tension of a dragon attack. Visual symbols, such as the interplay of light and shadow during moments of secrecy or danger, were woven into the animation to support narrative subtext, giving the film a layered visual storytelling approach that rewarded attentive viewing. Technological innovation played a crucial role in the film's production. DreamWorks Animation developed proprietary software tools to manage the complexity of dragon designs, flight dynamics, and crowd animation. For instance, the coordination of multiple dragons in battle scenes required simulation tools that allowed animators to maintain control over timing, scale, and choreography, while keeping the sequences visually coherent and emotionally engaging. The film's rendering process involved combining highly detailed textures, realistic lighting, and volumetric effects like smoke, mist, and fire, which contributed to the immersive quality of the environment. These technical achievements set benchmarks for subsequent animated films, influencing industry standards for character realism and environmental immersion. Deleted scenes and story rewrites illustrate the iterative nature of the production. Early drafts included longer sequences showing the Viking community's reactions to dragon attacks, with a heavier emphasis on slapstick comedy and exaggerated heroics. These sequences were shortened or removed to focus more on character relationships, emotional arcs, and the central bond between Hiccup and Toothless. Some dragon designs were also revised during production. Initial sketches featured more aggressive, intimidating forms, but animators and directors ultimately settled on designs that balanced majesty, cuteness, and expressiveness, ensuring that dragons could elicit both awe and empathy. The iterative process demonstrated the director's commitment to storytelling over spectacle, refining every visual element to serve the narrative. Music and sound design were integrated during animation to enhance pacing and emotion. John Powell composed the score in parallel with animation, allowing key musical motifs to guide the rhythm of scenes. Animators adjusted timing and movement to synchronize with cues in the score, particularly during flight sequences and moments of emotional revelation. Sound designers also collaborated closely with the animation team to create realistic dragon noises, including roars, wing flaps, and playful sounds, which were layered to reflect each dragon's personality. Toothless expressive sounds were carefully modulated to convey curiosity, playfulness, or fear, reinforcing the emotional connection between character and audience. How to Train Your Dragon unfolds as a layered, emotionally engaging story that balances adventure, humor, and character development. The narrative is structured in a way that appeals to children while simultaneously offering depth and nuance for adult viewers, blending elements of the hero's journey, coming-of-age stories, and family drama. The plot centers on Hiccup, a young Viking who struggles to find his place within a society that values physical strength, aggression, and traditional heroism. Unlike his peers, Hiccup is inventive, empathetic, and sensitive, traits that set him apart and initially create tension between him and both his father, Stoik, and the wider community. The story opens by establishing the Viking village of Berk as a rugged, isolated society constantly threatened by dragons. The early scenes are filled with humor, chaos, and the daily routines of dragon attacks, immediately immersing the audience in a world where danger, tradition, and adventure coexist. These opening moments also establish Hiccup's character, showing him attempting to prove himself in dragon raids but consistently failing, which generates both sympathy and comedic relief. The first act introduces the central conflict, Hiccup's desire to contribute meaningfully to his community, while also questioning the morality of their violent interactions with dragons. His inventive spirit leads him to capture a rare night fury, Toothless, but instead of killing the dragon, Hiccup spares him and begins to form a bond. This early narrative choice is pivotal, as it subverts traditional Viking heroic expectations and sets up the story's central theme of empathy and understanding. The pacing of the first act balances exposition, humor, and tension, ensuring that audiences understand the societal context, the stakes involved, and the personal struggles of the protagonist. The act also introduces secondary characters, such as Astrid, Snotlout, Fishlegs, and the other young Vikings, whose personalities, motivations, and relationships add depth to the narrative. These characters serve both as comedic counterpoints and as catalysts for Hiccup's personal growth. The second act shifts focus to the deepening bond between Hiccup and Toothless, which becomes the emotional and thematic heart of the film. This act features sequences of dragon training, flight exploration, and mutual trust building, illustrating the transformative power of understanding and cooperation. Narrative tension is heightened as Hiccup juggles his secret friendship with Toothless and his obligations to his community. These scenes are structured to interweave action, humor, and emotional resonance, demonstrating how animation can convey subtleties in body language, expression, and interaction. The act also introduces obstacles, such as village raids and misunderstandings about Hiccup's intentions, which escalate toward the story's climax. By gradually revealing the villagers' misconceptions and the growing threat posed by larger forces, the narrative maintains a steady tension while deepening character arcs. Hiccup's internal conflict is mirrored in external plot developments, creating a multi-layered structure that appeals to audiences on both emotional and narrative levels. Major turning points occur throughout the second act, each designed to reinforce character growth and thematic exploration. One such moment is Hiccup's realization that the dragon's behavior is not inherently aggressive but a reaction to fear and self-preservation. This revelation reframes the conflict, shifting the story from one of conquest to one of reconciliation and understanding. Another turning point occurs when Hiccup's secret is discovered by Astrid, whose initial anger and skepticism eventually transform into trust and partnership. These turning points are carefully paced, allowing audiences to absorb the emotional stakes and reinforcing the story's emphasis on empathy, courage, and moral choice. Comedic beats are woven throughout, often through supporting characters or dragon antics, which provide relief without undermining tension or emotional weight. The third act escalates to a climactic confrontation that tests the protagonist's growth, relationships, and understanding of leadership. Hiccup and Toothless confront the alpha dragon, an enormous and threatening creature responsible for orchestrating attacks on the village. This climactic sequence combines high-stakes action with emotional resolution. Hiccup's ingenuity, previously seen in small personal experiments and inventive problem-solving, becomes critical in devising a strategy that leverages both human and dragon abilities. The narrative structure allows this climax to operate on multiple levels. Visually, as a thrilling spectacle. Emotionally, as a culmination of the bond between Hiccup and Toothless, and thematically, as a resolution of ethical questions regarding violence, fear, and coexistence. The climax also features Stoic confronting his own biases and assumptions about heroism, leading to a reconciliatory resolution that underscores intergenerational understanding and familial growth. The integration of musical moments is subtle yet effective, with orchestral motifs underscoring emotional beats and moments of tension, wonder, and triumph. Music cues enhance narrative flow, providing auditory signals that support pacing and thematic resonance. For instance, flight sequences are accompanied by sweeping orchestral arrangements that reinforce exhilaration and the sense of freedom experienced by Hiccup and Toothless. These musical interludes are seamlessly integrated into the story structure, functioning as emotional punctuation rather than standalone set pieces, allowing both children and adults to engage with the narrative on multiple sensory levels. Comedic pacing in the screenplay plays a critical role in balancing tension and maintaining audience engagement. Scenes featuring side characters, such as Snotlout's brash antics or Fishleg's cautious nature, provide levity that contrasts with the protagonist's emotional struggles and the high-stakes dragon confrontations. These interjections of humor are strategically placed to ensure rhythm and variation in the storytelling, maintaining interest while also highlighting character traits and social dynamics within the Viking village. The film's humor operates on multiple levels, appealing to children through physical comedy and visual gags, while adults appreciate the subtleties in dialogue, irony, and character interactions. The narrative also employs visual foreshadowing and motifs to enhance coherence and emotional impact. Repeated imagery, such as Toothless' injured tail fin or Hiccup's inventive gadgets, reinforces themes of vulnerability, ingenuity, and interdependence. Environmental storytelling, including village architecture, dragon habitats, and seasonal landscapes, subtly conveys character perspectives and societal values. For example, the rugged cliffs and treacherous fjords reflect the Viking community's toughness and resilience, while also serving as a stage for exploration, growth, and the spectacle of flight. These visual elements are interwoven into the plot structure, providing depth and context that support audience immersion and thematic resonance. How to Train Your Dragon is a rich exploration of themes and moral messages that resonate across age groups, presenting lessons about identity, self-acceptance, courage, friendship, family, and personal growth. These themes are interwoven throughout the story, reflected in both character arcs and narrative events, allowing the film to operate as an entertaining adventure while also serving as a moral guide for younger audiences. Central to the film is the theme of identity and self-acceptance, embodied by Hiccup. He struggles to fit into a society that prizes strength, aggression, and traditional heroism. His inventions and empathetic approach are initially dismissed, leaving him feeling inadequate and disconnected. This tension highlights the broader moral lesson that one's value is not determined by conformity or external expectations, but by authenticity and the courage to embrace personal strengths. Hiccup's journey encourages audiences to understand and appreciate their own unique qualities, modeling the importance of self-belief and resilience in the face of societal pressure. Friendship is another core theme, most notably represented in the relationship between Hiccup and Toothless. Their bond transcends fear, species, and tradition, showing how trust, empathy, and mutual respect can bridge seemingly insurmountable divides. Toothless, as a sentient, intelligent, and emotionally expressive creature, serves as both companion and teacher, helping Hiccup learn patience, responsibility, and understanding. Through their interactions, the film conveys that friendship often requires vulnerability, compromise, and the willingness to see the world from another perspective. This message extends to human relationships within the village as well, where Hiccup's interactions with Astrid, Fishlegs, and other peers underscore the importance of collaboration, loyalty, and empathy in building meaningful connections. Family bonds and intergenerational relationships are explored through the dynamic between Hiccup and his father, Stoik. Stoik embodies traditional notions of heroism, strength, and authority, while Hiccup represents innovation, compassion, and individuality. Their relationship is initially marked by misunderstanding and tension, but as the story progresses, both characters learn to respect and appreciate each other's values. Stoik's eventual recognition of Hiccup's unique abilities demonstrates the moral lesson that leadership and guidance should accommodate diversity in skills and perspectives. The film uses this father-son dynamic to illustrate the broader idea that love and understanding within families often require patience, communication, and openness to change, highlighting the emotional intelligence necessary for intergenerational harmony. Courage and bravery are explored in unconventional ways. The film subverts traditional action-oriented heroism by showing that true courage is not measured by physical strength or combatability, but by moral conviction, strategic thinking, and empathy. Hiccup's bravery lies in challenging societal norms, protecting dragons instead of fighting them, and trusting in his intelligence and ingenuity to overcome obstacles. This approach encourages viewers, particularly children, to redefine what it means to be brave and to understand that courage can manifest through creativity, emotional honesty, and ethical decision-making. The narrative demonstrates that standing up for one's beliefs, even when unpopular or risky, is a form of heroism as meaningful as physical triumph. Themes of destiny and personal growth are also central to the story. Hiccup initially appears ill-equipped to assume the role expected of him within the Viking society. However, as he nurtures his bond with Toothless, develops his skills, and learns from failures, he gradually evolves into a confident, capable individual who influences the fate of his community. The film illustrates that destiny is not a predetermined path imposed by external forces, but is shaped through choices, effort, and the willingness to act in alignment with one's values. Hiccup's personal growth reinforces the moral message that self-improvement and courage are lifelong pursuits, shaped by experience, reflection, and ethical commitment. Love and compassion are interwoven with the theme of sacrifice. Hiccup demonstrates concern for the well-being of both humans and dragons, often placing the welfare of others above his own immediate desires. This is evident in moments where he risks personal safety to protect Toothless or intervenes in conflicts to prevent unnecessary violence. The moral lesson conveyed is that true empathy requires action, and that ethical choices often involve difficult compromises. The film emphasizes that compassion, when combined with courage, can transform conflict into cooperation, fear into trust, and enmity into mutual understanding. Freedom and personal agency are key elements reflected in both human and dragon characters. The dragon's captivity and the community's reliance on conflict highlight the consequences of misunderstanding and fear. Hiccup's intervention, driven by empathy and innovation, opens the possibility for dragons and humans to coexist peacefully, reinforcing the idea that liberation and agency are moral imperatives that must be guided by respect, communication, and shared responsibility. Toothless regained mobility through Hiccup's engineering ingenuity symbolizes empowerment achieved through partnership rather than domination, reinforcing the ethical principle that freedom is intertwined with trust and mutual support. The theme of moral choice is further explored through decisions made by both protagonists and supporting characters. Scenes involving village raids, dragon confrontations, and intergenerational disagreements are constructed to highlight the consequences of impulsive or fear-driven behavior. Characters who act without empathy or understanding, such as some of Hiccup's peers at the beginning, face setbacks or fail to achieve their goals, while characters who demonstrate patience, insight, or courage in the face of uncertainty succeed. This narrative structure underscores the moral lesson that thoughtful action, guided by ethical principles and respect for others, produces outcomes that are both personally fulfilling and socially responsible. Sacrifice is a recurring motif throughout the film. Hiccup risks social rejection, personal harm, and his standing in the community to act in accordance with his ethical beliefs. Stoic also demonstrates the challenges of parental sacrifice, balancing protection, guidance, and recognition of his son's individuality. These layered portrayals of sacrifice emphasize that moral and emotional growth often require letting go of rigid expectations and accepting uncertainty. The film suggests that heroism involves not only physical acts but also ethical courage and the willingness to prioritize others' well-being over personal gain. The film also subtly addresses themes of prejudice and reconciliation. How to Train Your Dragon stands out in animated cinema due to its sophisticated animation style and visual storytelling, which combine technical innovation with artistic expression. The film's visual design is layered, thoughtful, and meticulously executed, creating a world that feels both fantastical and tangible. The animation team worked to craft a cinematic experience in which every frame communicates emotion, narrative information, and thematic depth. The visual style draws on a combination of realistic detail and stylized design, allowing dragons, Vikings, and landscapes to inhabit a cohesive yet imaginative space that supports storytelling while captivating the audience visually. Character design is a central component of the film's visual storytelling. Hiccup, for example, is deliberately designed with slender proportions, expressive eyes, and subtle gestures that emphasize his intelligence, curiosity, and emotional sensitivity. His physicality contrasts sharply with Stoic, whose large, muscular build, strong jawline, and imposing stature visually communicate authority, strength, and leadership. These visual contrasts immediately establish character dynamics, signaling generational differences and internal conflicts without the need for exposition. Similarly, Astrid's design emphasizes athleticism, confidence, and determination, using posture, facial expressions, and movement to communicate assertiveness and resilience. Supporting characters are crafted with distinct silhouettes and visual traits that reflect personality and role, ensuring that audiences can quickly identify traits and motivations even in ensemble scenes. Dragons are arguably the most visually innovative aspect of the film. Toothless, as a night fury, combines sleek, aerodynamic features with animalistic expressiveness, resulting in a creature that is both formidable and endearing. The animators incorporated feline and canine behaviors into Toothless movements, enabling him to communicate mood, curiosity, fear, and playfulness without dialogue. Subtle elements such as tail flicks, ear adjustments, wing posture, and eye movements convey emotion with precision. Other dragons are designed with diverse physical characteristics and exaggerated features, emphasizing uniqueness and personality while maintaining a consistent internal logic. This approach allows audiences to perceive dragons as sentient, complex beings rather than generic monsters, reinforcing the film's thematic emphasis on empathy and understanding. Environmental design is equally sophisticated. The film's setting, the rugged island of Berk, combines Northern European and Scandinavian influences with imaginative fantasy elements. Cliffs, fjords, forests, and oceans are rendered with realistic textures, dynamic lighting, and atmospheric effects, creating a sense of scale, depth, and danger. The village's architecture reflects Viking culture, using practical structures adapted to the harsh environment, with details such as wooden fortifications, hanging banners, and dragon-proofing features that enhance authenticity. These environmental cues communicate societal values, cultural priorities, and the challenges the characters face. Visual motifs, such as jagged rocks representing obstacles or expansive skies symbolizing freedom, are integrated throughout, giving the audience cues about narrative and emotional progression. Lighting and color palette are used strategically to support mood and narrative. Warm, golden tones characterize intimate, emotional scenes, such as moments between hiccup and stoic or bonding sequences with Toothless, creating a sense of safety and warmth. Cooler, desaturated colors dominate scenes of danger, dragon attacks, or emotional tension, subtly reinforcing narrative stakes. Color is also used to distinguish dragons, human characters, and environmental elements, providing clarity in action sequences while adding visual richness. Lighting plays a critical role in flight sequences, enhancing the sense of altitude, speed, and spatial orientation while visually emphasizing dramatic arcs and emotional beats. Movement and motion are central to the film's visual storytelling. Dragon flight sequences are choreographed to convey exhilaration, freedom, and emotional intimacy between rider and dragon. Animators used advanced computer-generated physics to simulate realistic wing motion, air resistance, and inertia while preserving cinematic flair. Camera movement is dynamic, with sweeping aerial shots that follow dragons in flight, tracking camera angles that convey both scope and intimacy, and rapid cuts that intensify action scenes. The result is an immersive experience that allows audiences to feel the thrill of flight and the tension of danger, making visual storytelling an active participant in emotional engagement rather than a passive backdrop. Facial expressions and micro-expressions are meticulously animated to communicate unspoken emotion. Subtle shifts in eye position, eyebrow movement, lip tension, or head tilt allow characters, particularly Toothless and Hiccup, to convey complex emotional states. These micro-expressions are reinforced by vocal performance but can stand alone, ensuring that audiences can perceive character intention and feeling even in silent or visually focused sequences. This attention to expressive nuance contributes to the film's emotional resonance, making characters feel alive and relatable. Symbolism and visual metaphor are employed throughout the animation. For example, dragonflight is used repeatedly to represent freedom, trust, and personal growth. Hiccup's first successful flight with Toothless visually represents the culmination of learning, courage, and mutual understanding. Environmental hazards, such as cliffs, storms, or burning villages, are not only narrative obstacles, but also visual metaphors for internal challenges, fear, and transformation. The integration of symbolic imagery allows the film to communicate complex themes visually, reinforcing moral and emotional lessons in a way that is accessible to audiences of all ages. Technological breakthroughs in animation were pivotal to achieving these effects. Proprietary tools were developed to manage complex simulations for dragonflight, wing interactions, and atmospheric effects. Realistic hair and fur dynamics, skin textures, and dragon scales were rendered with advanced shaders, giving surfaces tactile realism. Volumetric lighting and particle effects, including mist, smoke, and fire, were integrated to create atmosphere, depth, and cinematic spectacle. These innovations allowed animators to maintain expressiveness and detail without sacrificing fluidity, resulting in sequences that are visually stunning while emotionally resonant. Composition and framing are used deliberately to guide audience attention and emphasize narrative priorities. Close-up shots highlight emotional subtleties, such as fear, empathy, or wonder, while wide shots establish spatial relationships, scale, and the grandeur of the environment. During key moments, such as battle sequences or first flights, framing and movement work in tandem to convey narrative stakes and emotional significance. Visual pacing, achieved through timing of motion, cuts, and scene transitions, mirrors the story's emotional rhythm, ensuring coherence and enhancing viewer immersion. The film also incorporates a blend of realism and stylization. The music, songs, and sound design of How to Train Your Dragon play a crucial role in shaping the film's emotional resonance, narrative pacing, and audience engagement. The score, composed by John Powell, is a sweeping orchestral work that combines lyrical melodies, thematic motifs, and rhythmic energy to underscore character development, action sequences, and emotional climaxes. Powell's composition integrates traditional orchestral elements with motifs inspired by Nordic and Scandinavian music, reflecting the Viking-inspired setting of the film. The use of folk-like instrumentation, such as fiddles and percussive rhythms, adds cultural texture to the score while reinforcing the world-building of Berk and its surrounding landscapes. These musical choices anchor the story in a recognizable, immersive soundscape, enhancing the believability and emotional impact of both quiet character moments and high-intensity sequences. Musical themes in the score are closely tied to characters and their development. Hiccup's theme, for example, features a delicate, inquisitive melodic line that evolves alongside his journey from awkward and uncertain youth to courageous and inventive leader. This theme is often paired with soft orchestral textures during reflective moments or layered with driving rhythms and soaring strings during sequences of triumph or discovery, subtly mirroring the protagonist's internal growth. Toothless is similarly represented through musical motifs that convey playfulness, loyalty, and emotional complexity. His vocalizations and movements are reinforced by specific musical cues that guide audience empathy, making him an expressive character even in the absence of spoken dialogue. The interplay between character motifs and narrative events ensures that music is integrated as an essential storytelling tool rather than background decoration. The use of music during dragon flight sequences is particularly notable. Sweeping orchestral arrangements accompany aerial maneuvers, flips, and high-speed pursuits, enhancing the sensation of freedom, exhilaration, and emotional connection between rider and dragon. Tempo and rhythm are carefully synchronized with animation, ensuring that the score amplifies the impact of visual storytelling. Sequences such as Hiccup's first flight with Toothless use music to communicate wonder and empowerment, reinforcing themes of trust, courage, and personal growth. The combination of visual spectacle and orchestral energy transforms flight scenes into emotionally charged set pieces, leaving a lasting impression on viewers. Songs performed by the cast, including incidental singing moments and diegetic music, are used sparingly but effectively. These moments provide insight into character emotions and motivations while supporting narrative pacing. Vocal performances are integrated into the soundscape to complement orchestration, dialogue, and environmental audio, creating cohesion between multiple auditory layers. The inclusion of musical interludes during training sequences or lighter moments enhances humor, character relationships, and world building. The film carefully balances diegetic and non-diegetic music, ensuring that musical elements advance both story and emotion. Sound design is a critical aspect of the film's immersive experience. The creation of dragon vocalizations, roars, wing flaps, and playful noises required intricate layering of animal sounds, digital manipulation, and careful attention to timbre, pitch, and rhythm. Toothless sounds, for instance, combine feline-like vocal qualities with dragon-specific textures to convey personality, emotion, and intention. Each dragon species was designed with unique auditory signatures, allowing audiences to identify them instantly and enhancing the believability of interactions between humans and dragons. Environmental sounds, such as crashing waves, rustling trees, wind gusts, and roaring fires, are synchronized with animation to reinforce scale, space, and dramatic tension. The integration of sound with visual cues ensures that action and emotional beats are experienced holistically, drawing viewers into the world rather than presenting sound as a separate element. Action sequences, including dragon battles, raids, and rescues, demonstrate the careful coordination of music, sound effects, and animation. Explosive impacts, dragon roars, and environmental hazards are mixed with orchestral swells to heighten drama without overwhelming clarity. Rapid cuts and choreography in these sequences are reinforced by precise rhythmic cues in the score, guiding audience attention and enhancing comprehension of complex visual information. The soundscape maintains a balance between excitement and emotional clarity, ensuring that viewers remain engaged and connected to the story and characters throughout. Music and sound design also reinforce thematic elements. The recurring motifs associated with freedom, courage, and empathy provide an auditory thread that ties the narrative together, creating continuity across sequences. Moments of tension or moral dilemma are accompanied by subtle harmonic shifts, minor keys, or restrained instrumentation, signaling introspection, conflict, or vulnerability. Conversely, triumphant or celebratory moments use full orchestration, soaring melodies, and percussive accents to evoke joy, accomplishment, and community. This strategic use of musical language allows audiences to intuitively understand character emotions and story developments without relying solely on dialogue or visual exposition. Powell's score became iconic due to its melodic accessibility, thematic richness, and emotional depth. Certain cues, such as the leitmotif associated with Toothless' first flight, quickly became recognizable even outside the context of the film. Fans created covers, orchestral renditions, and performance videos, demonstrating the music's cultural resonance. The score's combination of epic adventure and intimate reflection allows it to operate effectively in multiple contexts, providing both excitement for children and nuanced emotional engagement for adults. This dual appeal contributes to the film's lasting impact and accessibility across age groups. The soundscape extends to subtle auditory cues that enhance world-building. Dragon movement is accompanied by unique auditory textures, from the flapping of wings to clawed landings, reinforcing the physicality and presence of these creatures. Environmental effects, such as echoes in caverns or the clash of metal in village defenses, contribute to spatial awareness and immersion. Dialogue is carefully balanced against these layers to maintain clarity while preserving the richness of the auditory environment. Attention to these details ensures that audiences experience the film as a complete sensory world, where sound informs understanding, emotion, and engagement. The interplay between music and narrative structure is evident in moments of emotional climax. For instance, Hiccup's confrontation with the alpha dragon is underscored by a rising orchestral swell that mirrors his internal growth, anxiety, and courage. How to Train Your Dragon received widespread acclaim from critics, audiences, and families alike, cementing its status as a landmark in modern animation. Upon release, the film was praised for its technical achievements, emotional depth, narrative sophistication, and universal appeal. Critics highlighted the film's ability to balance thrilling action sequences with nuanced character development and moral storytelling. The voice performances of Baruchel, Gerard Butler, America Ferrera, and others were repeatedly cited as key strengths, bringing authenticity, warmth, and humor to their roles. Baruchel's portrayal of Hiccup was noted for its vulnerability, intelligence, and comedic timing, creating a hero who differed from traditional archetypes. Gerard Butler's Stoic was recognized for providing a compelling mix of authority, vulnerability, and paternal warmth, while America Ferrera's Astrid offered a strong, assertive, and relatable female character in a genre often criticized for underdeveloped female roles. These performances elevated the script and allowed audiences to emotionally invest in the story. Audiences responded enthusiastically, with box office performance reflecting the film's widespread appeal. The movie grossed over $500 million worldwide, establishing itself as a major commercial success and one of the highest-grossing animated films of its release year. Family audiences particularly praised the film for its accessibility to children while retaining depth for adults. The narrative's emotional arcs, humor, and adventure allowed multi-generational viewing, with parents often noting the film's ability to convey moral lessons and emotional complexity without being didactic. This dual appeal contributed to the film's longevity in cultural conversations and its adoption into home media collections, streaming platforms, and educational discussions. Critical praise frequently focused on the animation quality and visual storytelling. Reviewers highlighted the fluidity of dragon flight, the expressiveness of characters, and the immersive environmental design. Sequences such as Hiccup and Toothless flying over cliffs and fjords were repeatedly singled out for their breathtaking combination of scale, movement, and emotional resonance. The film's use of lighting, color palettes, and cinematic framing was also lauded for creating a rich, visually coherent world that enhanced storytelling. Critics emphasized that the film successfully combined technical prowess with artistic intent, achieving both spectacle and emotional depth. The music and sound design received notable recognition, particularly John Powell's orchestral score. Reviewers praised the score for its thematic cohesion, ability to underscore emotion, and its enhancement of narrative pacing. Sequences of flight, triumph, and reflection were noted for how the music amplified the viewer's experience, making moments of tension exhilarating and quieter scenes profoundly moving. Sound design, including dragon vocalizations and environmental textures, was also acknowledged for contributing to the sense of immersion and realism, ensuring that the fantastical elements of the story felt tangible and emotionally resonant. Some criticism arose regarding the film's adherence to familiar narrative structures, with a few reviewers noting that the hero's journey and coming-of-age tropes were recognizable and predictable. However, most agreed that the film's execution, character depth, emotional resonance, and imaginative elements transcended these familiar structures. The critique centered on narrative familiarity rather than shortcomings in creativity or innovation, suggesting that while the overarching plot may follow traditional storytelling arcs, the film's characters, visuals, and emotional depth provided sufficient originality to engage and surprise audiences. Representation in the film received attention for its nuanced approach. Astrid as a strong female character was praised for her agency, intelligence, and participation in central action sequences, countering common criticisms of passive or one-dimensional female roles in animation. The portrayal of Hiccup as an atypical hero expanded the understanding of masculinity in children's media, demonstrating that emotional intelligence, empathy, and ingenuity can be heroic traits. These representational choices were recognized as contributing to modern conversations about diversity in character archetypes and the importance of inclusive role models for young audiences. Debates among critics occasionally arose around the depiction of dragons and violence. Some observers noted that the film portrays conflict and threat through dragons attacking villages, but the narrative reframes these conflicts by showing that violence often results from misunderstanding or fear. This shift emphasized reconciliation, empathy, and communication, and was generally viewed positively, although a small number of critics argued that young viewers might initially be frightened by dragon attacks. The film mitigates this through humor, expressive animation, and narrative resolution, creating a balance that allows tension without lasting distress. Overall, the treatment of conflict was widely praised for its sophistication in a family-oriented context. Parents and educators frequently highlighted the film's value for moral and emotional education. Hiccup's growth, Stoic's evolving parenting, and the relationship with Toothless were cited as tools for teaching empathy, courage, and problem-solving. Discussions around these themes extended beyond cinematic critique into classroom activities, parenting forums, and community conversations, demonstrating the film's practical impact on moral reasoning and social learning. Critics recognized that the film's appeal extended beyond entertainment, offering lessons that could be internalized and applied by viewers, particularly children navigating issues of identity, friendship, and ethical choice. Awards recognition further reflected the film's critical success. How to Train Your Dragon received nominations and wins for animation, score, visual effects, and overall family entertainment. Accolades emphasized the film's achievements in integrating technical animation excellence with emotionally resonant storytelling. While it did not win an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, its nomination alongside other significant films of its time highlighted industry recognition of its quality and influence. The combination of commercial success, critical praise, and award recognition reinforced its position as a standout animated feature of the decade. How to Train Your Dragon established a legacy that extends far beyond its initial theatrical release, evolving into a multifaceted franchise encompassing sequels, television adaptations, merchandise, theme park attractions, and a lasting influence on animated storytelling. The film's success paved the way for sequels, beginning with How to Train Your Dragon 2, which continued the narrative 5 years later, exploring themes of maturity, leadership, and the evolving relationships between humans and dragons. The third installment, How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World, concluded the core trilogy, delivering emotional closure while expanding the mythology of the dragon's universe. These sequels preserved the emotional depth, visual sophistication, and musical richness of the original, while exploring new narrative challenges, character growth, and thematic complexity. The trilogy as a whole demonstrates the franchise's commitment to continuity in character development and thematic exploration, allowing audiences to follow the protagonist's maturation and the evolving dynamics of human-dragon coexistence over time. Television adaptations, including series such as Dragons, Riders of Berk and Dragons, Race to the Edge, extended the story world by exploring side characters, secondary arcs, and untold adventures. These serialized formats allowed for episodic storytelling that complemented the films, providing fans with deeper engagement and continued exposure to the franchise's world. The series maintained high animation quality, compelling narratives, and character-driven plots, reinforcing the franchise's identity and expanding its cultural footprint. By presenting the stories in a television format, the franchise also reached younger audiences in their homes, creating opportunities for recurring engagement and fostering long-term loyalty. Merchandise played a significant role in the franchise's expansion and cultural presence. Action figures, plush toys, dragon models, and playsets became popular among children, reflecting the appeal of dragons as characters and interactive companions. Educational toys, themed games, and collectibles allowed audiences to engage with the franchise beyond the screen, supporting imaginative play and reinforcing character attachment. Clothing, accessories, and lifestyle merchandise further integrated the franchise into everyday culture, while limited edition collectibles and art books appealed to older fans and collectors, bridging generational audiences. The success of merchandise lines also demonstrated the commercial viability of the franchise and its ability to maintain relevance over time. Theme park adaptations contributed to the physical and experiential expansion of the franchise. Rides, live shows, and interactive exhibits based on the films were developed in amusement parks and resorts, allowing audiences to immerse themselves in the world of Berk and Dragonflight. These attractions recreated iconic sequences, such as aerial chases and first flights with dragons, through technology such as motion simulation, virtual reality, and large-scale animatronics. The immersive nature of these experiences reinforced emotional connections with the story and characters, providing fans with tangible, memorable encounters. Live performances and interactive attractions also helped introduce the franchise to new audiences, enhancing cultural penetration and longevity. The franchise's legacy includes stage adaptations that translate the cinematic and musical elements into live performance. Theatrical productions feature choreographed dragon puppetry, elaborate sets, and musical scores inspired by John Powell's compositions, bringing the narrative to audiences in a new medium. These productions emphasize both the spectacle and emotional core of the story, maintaining fidelity to character arcs and themes while adapting visual storytelling to the stage. Stage adaptations demonstrate the versatility of the franchise and its ability to thrive across multiple forms of entertainment. The influence of How to Train Your Dragon extends to the animation industry itself. The film's combination of character-driven storytelling, technical innovation, and emotional depth set new standards for computer-generated animation. Studios and animators have cited the film as an inspiration for integrating cinematic lighting, environmental design, and character expressiveness with engaging narratives. Flight sequences, in particular, have become a benchmark for depicting motion, scale, and emotion in animated films. The franchise's success also reinforced the viability of narratives that center on non-traditional heroes, empathetic protagonists, and morally complex stories in family-oriented animation. Cultural resonance and fan engagement have further solidified the franchise's legacy. Fan art, cosplay, cover performances of musical themes, and online communities celebrate the characters, dragons, and world of Berk, fostering shared experiences and communal storytelling. This active engagement demonstrates the depth of attachment audiences have developed, reinforcing the franchise's relevance in contemporary popular culture. Fan-generated content also contributes to the ongoing visibility and vitality of the franchise, extending its lifespan beyond the original media and encouraging intergenerational dialogue. Licensing partnerships and collaborations expanded the franchise's reach into diverse markets. Video games, mobile applications, and educational platforms allowed interactive engagement, enabling players to explore the world of dragons, complete challenges, and develop problem-solving skills. These adaptations maintained narrative continuity and character fidelity, allowing audiences to engage creatively with the franchise. Partnerships with international distributors ensured that the films, series, and merchandise reached global audiences, reinforcing cultural penetration and universal appeal. The franchise's global presence highlights the ability of emotionally resonant, visually compelling stories to transcend cultural and linguistic boundaries. The narrative universe itself grew through expanded world-building. Additional lore, backstories, and dragon species introduced in sequels and series enriched the fictional ecosystem, providing opportunities for exploration, conflict, and character development. Environmental storytelling, such as unique dragon habitats, cultural practices of Vikings, and evolving societal structures, reinforced the believability of the world while supporting complex plotlines. The richness of the fictional universe enabled deeper audience investment, allowing the story to remain engaging across multiple media and narrative formats. Merchandise and narrative expansion also reinforced the moral and thematic lessons of the original film. Stories emphasizing empathy, courage, collaboration, and understanding were consistently woven through sequels, television episodes, and interactive media. This consistency reinforced the franchise's identity, ensuring that both entertainment and ethical engagement remained central to the brand. Young audiences could internalize these messages across various media experiences, strengthening the franchise's role as both entertainment and cultural pedagogy. The franchise's success is also notable for its longevity and adaptability. How to Train Your Dragon achieves a remarkable level of emotional connection with audiences, resonating across multiple generations through its nuanced storytelling, character depth, and universal themes. The film's success in building such a connection can be attributed to its deliberate balance of humor, adventure, and heartfelt emotion. Children are drawn to the fantastical elements, including dragons, epic flight sequences, and imaginative action, while adults are often captivated by the film's exploration of identity, moral choices, family dynamics, and ethical courage. This dual appeal allows the film to operate on multiple emotional and cognitive levels simultaneously, fostering a rich, layered experience for viewers of all ages. For children, the characters of Hiccup and Toothless serve as relatable figures of personal growth, curiosity, and bravery. Hiccup's initial struggles with acceptance, competence, and understanding reflect common developmental challenges faced by young audiences, such as navigating peer expectations, familial pressure, and self-confidence. Toothless provides companionship, loyalty, and playfulness, offering a fantastical yet emotionally resonant parallel to human relationships. Children respond to Toothless' expressiveness, empathetic gestures, and endearing quirks, forming attachments that mirror their connections with real-world pets or companions. Sequences of flight, exploration, and adventure reinforce feelings of freedom, agency, and empowerment, allowing young viewers to vicariously experience courage, innovation, and triumph. Adults, by contrast, often engage with the film on the level of thematic complexity, moral reflection, and intergenerational relationships. Stoic's relationship with Hiccup offers insight into parenting challenges, authority, and the negotiation between tradition and individuality. Parents recognize the emotional subtleties in Stoic's attempts to protect, guide, and support his son while also grappling with personal expectations and societal pressures. Adults are similarly attuned to the ethical dilemmas presented by human-dragon conflict, recognizing parallels to broader social issues such as prejudice, fear-driven aggression, and the reconciliation of opposing perspectives. The film's nuanced portrayal of these dynamics allows adults to extract emotional and philosophical meaning while sharing the viewing experience with children. The emotional impact is enhanced through specific storytelling techniques, including visual cues, music, pacing, and character development. The animation captures subtle expressions and gestures that convey internal states, allowing audiences to empathize with characters even in the absence of dialogue. John Powell's musical score amplifies these moments, using leitmotifs, orchestral swells, and harmonic shifts to mirror emotional arcs, heightening the sense of wonder, tension, or triumph. The integration of sound, movement, and visual storytelling creates an immersive experience in which viewers feel connected to characters' emotions, actions, and choices. The film also cultivates a sense of shared experience, fostering intergenerational dialogue. Children may relate to Hiccup's feelings of inadequacy or his adventurous spirit, while parents reflect on Stoic's perspective, ethical dilemmas, or the importance of guidance and understanding. Shared discussions about the story's moral lessons, character decisions, or fantastical elements encourage family interaction, critical thinking, and emotional literacy. This intergenerational resonance strengthens the film's cultural impact, making it not only an entertaining experience but also a tool for social and emotional learning across age groups. Fan engagement highlights the depth of emotional connection audiences develop. Fan art, cosplay, online communities, and cover performances of the film's musical motifs demonstrate the personal investment viewers make in the characters and world. Toothless and Hiccup become symbolic figures through which fans explore identity, courage, and friendship, often creating narratives that extend beyond the original story. This participatory culture reinforces generational connections, as parents and children can enjoy collaborative activities, creative projects, or fandom events that revolve around the film. The franchise encourages imaginative engagement, emotional reflection, and social interaction, which deepens the emotional bond between audience and story. The film's depiction of friendship, loyalty, and empathy resonates universally. The bond between Hiccup and Toothless exemplifies mutual respect, understanding, and trust, providing a model for emotional intelligence and interpersonal connection. Children internalize these lessons through character identification, while adults reflect on relational dynamics, ethical considerations, and the transformative power of empathy. The narrative demonstrates that meaningful relationships are built on trust, communication, and ethical choice, and the audience response indicates that viewers recognize and emotionally respond to these lessons. Humor and adventure enhance accessibility while supporting emotional resonance. Playful interactions, comedic timing, and lighthearted sequences provide relief from tension while reinforcing character traits and moral lessons. For children, humor creates engagement, allowing them to enjoy the fantastical and emotional aspects without feeling overwhelmed. Adults appreciate layered humor, including irony, subtle visual gags, or character-driven comedic elements, which deepen understanding of personality, social dynamics, and narrative nuance. This combination of laughter and emotional reflection contributes to a multidimensional connection that appeals to diverse audience members simultaneously. The film's exploration of courage and personal growth fosters identification across generations. Hiccup's evolution from a hesitant, insecure youth to a confident, morally guided leader models the value of perseverance, ethical decision-making, and the development of self-efficacy. Toothless' journey reinforces complementary themes of trust, loyalty, and agency, providing a mirrored exploration of growth and emotional intelligence. Parents and children witness this transformation together, allowing reflection on their own experiences of growth, challenges, and interpersonal relationships. The narrative encourages empathy for struggles, recognition of achievements, and understanding of the complexity of development, which resonates across both developmental stages and life experiences. Audiences also respond to the film's depiction of community, belonging, and societal evolution. The Vikings' shift from fear-driven hostility toward dragons to cooperation and coexistence provides a model for ethical reflection and social learning. How to Train Your Dragon excels in its sophisticated portrayal of character development, using both traditional archetypes and innovative reinterpretations to create compelling, emotionally resonant personalities. The film carefully constructs its characters with distinctive traits, internal conflicts, and growth trajectories that allow audiences to engage with their journeys on multiple levels. Central to the story is Hiccup, whose development challenges and redefines the archetype of the hero in family animation. While traditional heroes are often physically strong, confident, and externally assertive, Hiccup's heroism emerges through intelligence, empathy, creativity, and moral courage. He is awkward, inventive, and emotionally vulnerable, which makes him deeply relatable, especially to young audiences who may feel marginalized or pressured to conform to societal expectations. Hiccup's progression from an uncertain outcast to a courageous and morally guided leader exemplifies a modern reinterpretation of the hero's journey, emphasizing internal growth and ethical decision-making as markers of heroism. Hiccup's internal conflict drives much of the narrative. He struggles to reconcile his desire for acceptance with his own values, leading to tension with his father, Stoic, and his peers. This conflict is central to his character arc, providing both comedic moments and dramatic tension. His inventive approach to dragons and problem-solving highlights his intellectual and emotional strengths, which contrast with the traditional valorization of physical prowess. Hiccup's evolution is carefully scaffolded through pivotal moments, such as discovering toothless vulnerability, standing up to his peers, and negotiating reconciliation between humans and dragons. Each of these moments reinforces themes of empathy, responsibility, and courage, while allowing audiences to witness tangible growth in his character. Stoic, as Hiccup's father, represents the archetype of the stern but loving mentor or authority figure. His initial reliance on traditional notions of strength, leadership, and heroism establishes a source of external conflict, while his eventual recognition of Hiccup's unique qualities marks significant character growth. Stoic's arc demonstrates the capacity for adaptation, humility, and ethical reflection in leadership, suggesting that wisdom involves acknowledging the value of diverse approaches. His relationship with Hiccup also serves as a model for intergenerational learning, illustrating how understanding and emotional openness can reshape familial and social dynamics. Stoic is not merely a static authority figure, but an evolving character whose journey complements and enhances Hiccup's own development. Astrid, as a strong female character, reinterprets archetypes of warriors and companions. She exhibits bravery, independence, and strategic thinking, challenging traditional gendered expectations in animated adventure. Her assertiveness and skill in combat demonstrate competence and confidence, while her growing emotional connection with Hiccup reflects the development of trust, respect, and partnership. Astrid's character arc is intertwined with the broader narrative of collaboration and empathy, highlighting how secondary characters contribute to thematic resonance and narrative depth. She functions as both a narrative foil and an equal partner, emphasizing the film's commitment to balanced, dynamic character relationships. Toothless, as a non-human character, exemplifies the potential of animation to convey emotion, intelligence, and personality without dialogue. His development parallels Hiccup's, with trust, loyalty, and mutual understanding serving as key drivers of growth. Toothless exhibits curiosity, playfulness, and resourcefulness, providing both comic relief and profound emotional depth. His relationship with Hiccup functions as a narrative and thematic anchor, demonstrating the transformative power of friendship and the moral imperative of empathy. Toothless' expressive physicality, including subtle eye movements, tail gestures, and body language, allows audiences to engage emotionally with his character as fully as they do with human protagonists. Supporting characters, such as Fishlegs, Spitelout, and the other young Vikings, embody archetypes of sidekicks, rivals, and comic relief. Fishlegs represents the loyal, cautious friend archetype, providing guidance, knowledge, and empathy. Spitelout serves as a foil to Hiccup, initially embodying traditional Viking aggression, overconfidence, and skepticism, which heightens tension and encourages character growth in the protagonist. The comedic interactions among these characters create levity, while reinforcing contrast between traditional heroism and Hiccup's unconventional approach. Even minor characters are designed to support the exploration of social dynamics, ethical choices, and personal growth, ensuring that every interaction contributes to character and thematic development. The narrative also features villains and antagonists, particularly the Alpha Dragon and the broader dragon-human conflict. These antagonistic forces are not portrayed as purely evil but as complex beings acting from instinct, fear, or misunderstanding. This nuanced depiction allows the story to explore moral ambiguity, ethical reasoning, and reconciliation rather than relying solely on simple good versus evil dynamics. The Alpha Dragon represents both external threat and internal challenge, serving as a catalyst for Hiccup's strategic thinking, emotional resilience, and courage. Confronting these antagonistic forces requires ingenuity and ethical decision-making, reinforcing the film's emphasis on intelligence and empathy over brute force. Archetypal structures, such as the hero's journey, are evident but reimagined. Hiccup's journey follows familiar stages, including separation from comfort, initiation through challenge, and return with newfound wisdom. Yet the specifics are subverted to highlight emotional intelligence, ethical reflection, and relational dynamics. The hero's journey is coupled with moral decision-making, demonstrating that heroism involves consideration of consequences, empathy for others, and creative problem-solving. Supporting characters similarly follow arcs that explore personal growth, loyalty, and courage, with arcs often intersecting to demonstrate interdependence and community as integral to narrative resolution. Comic relief is integrated through character personalities, dragon antics, and situational humor. These elements are not merely for entertainment but reinforce character traits, provide contrast to tension, and enhance audience engagement. Toothless playful behaviors, hiccups, inventive mishaps, and interactions among peers highlight both vulnerability and resourcefulness, making characters multidimensional and relatable. Humor also serves to humanize characters, making emotional arcs more impactful by providing balance between tension and levity. Friendship and relational development are central to character growth. Hiccup's interactions with Toothless, Astrid, and the other villagers emphasize trust, mutual support, and understanding. These relationships allow characters to evolve, learn from each other, and confront moral and emotional challenges. The narrative demonstrates that personal growth is often contingent on relational engagement, reflecting real-world social and ethical learning. How to Train Your Dragon stands out not only for its narrative and emotional resonance, but also for its meticulous approach to costume design, character aesthetics, and immersive world building. The creative team invested considerable effort into ensuring that every visual element, clothing, physical appearance, and environmental detail, contributed to character development, cultural context, and narrative coherence. Costume design in particular functions as a visual language, communicating personality, social status, role, and values without relying on dialogue. The Vikings of Berk, for example, are portrayed wearing practical, rugged clothing crafted from fur, leather, and woven fabrics. These materials suggest a society adapted to harsh northern climates, emphasizing resilience, resourcefulness, and utilitarian priorities. Each character's costume subtly reflects their personality. Stoic's armor and fur-lined cloak communicate authority, experience, and physical strength, while Hiccup's lighter, more flexible outfit conveys agility, ingenuity, and a departure from tradition. Astrid's costume similarly communicates her warrior identity and assertive personality. Her practical armor, braided hair, and functional footwear highlight competence, mobility, and independence. The integration of decorative elements, such as pattern trims or symbolic motifs, reinforces cultural authenticity while providing visual interest. Supporting characters' costumes are designed to differentiate personalities and social roles. Fishleg's heavier clothing and layered attire convey caution and thoughtfulness, whereas Spitelout's more flamboyant or assertive styling reflects confidence and bravado. The careful balance of utility and individuality in costume design ensures that each character's appearance communicates narrative information instantly, enhancing audience understanding and engagement. Character design extends beyond clothing to physical features, body language, and expressive potential. Hiccup's slender build, oversized head, and expressive eyes emphasize vulnerability, intelligence, and relatability. Stoic's imposing size, broad shoulders, and commanding presence establish him as a figure of authority and protection. Astrid's athletic posture, defined musculature, and confident gestures reflect competence and determination. These physical traits, combined with costume choices, reinforce personality, motivations, and relationships without explicit exposition, demonstrating the integration of design and storytelling. Dragons are designed with extraordinary attention to individuality, biology, and personality. Toothless, as a night fury, combines aerodynamic sleekness with expressive physicality, enabling him to communicate emotion, intelligence, and intent without dialogue. Subtle design features, including tail shape, wing curvature, ear structure, and eye expressiveness, allow nuanced emotional conveyance. Other dragon species are visually distinct, reflecting behavior, temperament, and function within the narrative ecosystem. Design diversity enhances world building, enabling audiences to recognize personality traits at a glance and reinforcing the idea of dragons as complex, sentient beings. Environmental design is integral to the immersive quality of the film. The village of Berk is situated among cliffs, fjords, and rugged landscapes, with architecture that balances functionality and cultural expression. Wooden fortifications, watchtowers, dragon-proofing measures, and communal spaces reflect a society shaped by environmental necessity and dragon interactions. Cottages feature individualized elements, such as roof shapes, carvings, and decorations, which suggest family identity and social role. The village's layout, combining communal gathering spaces and private dwellings, reinforces themes of community, interdependence, and adaptation to external threats. The surrounding landscapes, forests, mountains, rivers, and oceans, extend world-building beyond the village. Fjords and cliffs provide verticality and scale for dragon flight, while forests and caves offer exploration, danger, and mystery. Weather effects, including storms, fog, and sunlight, contribute to narrative tone, influence character action, and enhance visual storytelling. The integration of environmental cues with character behavior and narrative beats ensures that the world itself functions as an active participant in the story, shaping action, emotion, and thematic resonance. Cultural design elements, including symbols, tools, and household items, enrich the authenticity of Berk's society. Shields, weapons, cooking implements, and everyday objects are crafted to appear functional yet culturally meaningful, providing context for social hierarchy, occupation, and tradition. These details, combined with costume and character design, create a coherent and believable society, enabling audiences to understand the stakes, challenges, and values of the fictional world. World building is reinforced by narrative integration, as environmental and costume details reflect history, social structure, and interaction patterns. Dragons' habitats are similarly diverse and carefully considered. Caves, nesting areas, and flying zones are designed to reflect ecological plausibility, aesthetic beauty, and narrative function. Each dragon species' environment aligns with behavior and personality traits, reinforcing the notion of a living, dynamic ecosystem. The interplay between human settlements and dragon habitats emphasizes coexistence, conflict, and eventual reconciliation, reflecting both narrative and thematic priorities. Design choices also communicate thematic motifs. Clothing and armor signify courage, preparation, or status, while environmental scale and openness reinforce freedom, exploration, and personal growth. The contrast between tight, enclosed village spaces and expansive flight paths visually reinforces the film's exploration of boundaries, liberation, and emotional development. Color palettes, texture choices, and lighting contribute to tone, mood, and emphasis, ensuring that every visual element supports the story and emotional impact. Interactions between characters and their designed environments further enhance storytelling. Hiccup's inventive approach to dragons is reflected visually through his personalized gear, such as his modified prosthetic and training equipment, which indicate creativity, resourcefulness, and a unique perspective. Stoics' armor and fortress emphasize strength, leadership, and adherence to tradition, establishing a visual language of authority. Dragon's physicality and movement are designed to respond dynamically to both environment and rider, reinforcing character relationships, growth, and thematic messages. The film's aesthetic is also shaped by attention to historical and mythological influences. Nordic and Viking references inform architecture, costume motifs, and social customs, while imaginative adaptations create a distinctive fantasy world. The balance of historical inspiration and creative license enables audiences to recognize cultural touchstones while remaining fully immersed in a unique and fantastical universe. This approach grounds the story in plausibility while maintaining narrative flexibility for adventure, humor, and moral exploration. How to Train Your Dragon is distinguished not only by its visual and musical storytelling, but also by its meticulous construction of dialogue, humor, and overall screenplay structure. The screenplay balances exposition, character development, and narrative pacing, ensuring that audiences of all ages can follow the story while remaining emotionally engaged. Dialogue is crafted to reveal personality, relationships, and internal conflict, often providing insight into characters' motivations, fears, and aspirations. Hiccup's lines, for example, are often imbued with self-doubt, curiosity, and cleverness, highlighting both his intelligence and vulnerability. This contrast between spoken uncertainty and inventive action allows the audience to appreciate his heroism on multiple levels, encouraging empathy and engagement. Stoic's dialogue reinforces his authoritative, protective role while also revealing emotional depth. Moments of stern guidance are frequently balanced with warmth, vulnerability, and subtle humor, allowing audiences to perceive the complexity of his character. Exchanges between Stoic and Hiccup illustrate generational tension, differing values, and evolving understanding, offering both dramatic weight and relatable familial dynamics. The dialogue between father and son is frequently layered with subtext, enabling adults to appreciate nuanced relational themes, while children connect with the emotional beats and humor. Astrid's dialogue serves multiple functions, emphasizing competence, assertiveness, and relational connection. She often challenges Hiccup with teasing, criticism, or encouragement, creating a dynamic interplay that both develops her character and facilitates growth in the protagonist. Her verbal sparring with Hiccup is comedic, but it also reflects underlying trust, admiration, and mutual respect. These interactions reinforce relational dynamics, character agency, and the narrative trajectory, while simultaneously contributing to the film's humor and charm. Humor is woven into dialogue, action, and situational contexts, functioning on multiple levels to engage different age groups. Children respond to slapstick moments, exaggerated expressions, and dragon antics, while adults appreciate wit, irony, and subtext. Toothless, as a nonverbal character, often participates in comedic sequences through expressive reactions, physical comedy, and playful mischief. These moments provide levity while reinforcing character traits, relational bonds, and narrative stakes. Humor is also employed to diffuse tension, enhance pacing, and create a naturalistic rhythm between dramatic sequences, comedic relief, and emotional reflection. Screenplay structure is carefully orchestrated to balance action, emotion, and world building. The narrative opens with exposition integrated seamlessly into action sequences, such as dragon attacks on the village, establishing both stakes and context. Rather than relying solely on explicit exposition, the screenplay uses visual storytelling, character reaction, and dialogue to convey necessary background information. Early sequences establish character relationships, cultural norms, and the central conflict, allowing audiences to understand both the human and dragon perspectives. This approach maintains narrative momentum while providing clarity and emotional investment. The story follows a three-act structure with clear narrative arcs, but it incorporates subplots that enhance character development and thematic depth. Hiccup's personal growth is complemented by the evolving village dynamics, Astrid's agency, and Toothless development. Secondary characters, including Fishlegs, Spitelout, and the other young Vikings, provide additional layers of tension, humor, and ethical exploration. These subplots intersect with the main narrative, reinforcing moral lessons and deepening engagement. The interplay between main and secondary arcs demonstrates narrative sophistication, allowing multiple audiences to connect with different levels of the story simultaneously. Emotional beats are carefully placed to maximize resonance and audience investment. Quiet moments of introspection, bonding, or revelation are contrasted with high-energy action sequences, maintaining pacing and tension while ensuring that audiences have space to process character growth and thematic content. Musical cues, expressive animation, and environmental details support these emotional moments, creating an integrated cinematic experience. Dialogue often serves to highlight internal thought processes, relational nuance, or moral reflection, while visual storytelling conveys subtext and context that enriches the spoken words. Recurring catchphrases and verbal motifs reinforce character identity and thematic cohesion. Hiccup's witty observations, Stoic's guiding directives, and the younger Vikings' exclamations contribute to audience recognition, comedic timing, and narrative continuity. Repetition of specific lines or expressions provides familiarity, builds relational dynamics, and reinforces humor without becoming redundant. This careful balance of novelty and repetition ensures that dialogue is engaging, meaningful, and consistent with character arcs. Exposition is handled through a combination of dialogue, visual cues, and situational context. For example, the history of human-dragon conflict is conveyed through village practices, artifact design, and conversations between Stoic and other elders. Hiccup's curiosity and questioning serve as narrative devices to prompt explanations naturally, allowing the audience to learn alongside the protagonist. This technique ensures that world-building is immersive, organic, and integrated into character development rather than interrupting narrative flow. Action sequences are interwoven with dialogue and humor to maintain clarity and emotional impact. Verbal exchanges during training scenes, battles, or flights provide context, communicate strategy, and reveal character traits. Comedic lines or dragon interactions punctuate tension, ensuring that sequences are both exhilarating and accessible. The screenplay strategically alternates between high-stakes drama and lighter moments, preserving audience engagement and emotional balance. The screenplay also emphasizes moral and ethical reflection. Dialogue frequently addresses themes of empathy, understanding, courage, and responsibility. Hiccup's conversations with peers, elders, and toothless provide moments for internal and external ethical consideration. Stoic's guidance, sometimes conveyed through stern but thoughtful language, encourages reflection on leadership, protection, and adaptability. Even minor characters contribute to thematic reinforcement through humorous observations, moral lessons, or relational dynamics. How to Train Your Dragon achieved global success not only through its storytelling and animation but also through strategic marketing, branding, and international distribution that maximized audience engagement and cultural penetration. The film's marketing campaign leveraged multiple platforms, including trailers, television spots, teaser clips, social media promotion, merchandise tie-ins, and soundtrack releases. Trailers emphasized the film's combination of adventure, humor, and emotional resonance, highlighting iconic flight sequences, dragon designs, and character interactions. These visual teasers were carefully crafted to appeal to both children, who are drawn to spectacle and fantastical elements, and adults, who respond to nuanced character development and moral storytelling. Television spots and cinematic previews reinforced this messaging, presenting the film as a multi-generational experience. Digital marketing played a significant role in generating anticipation and fan engagement. The official website offered interactive games, character profiles, and downloadable content, allowing audiences to explore the world of Berk and its dragons before seeing the film. Early social media campaigns created buzz around character reveals, dragon designs, and flight sequences, encouraging fan discussion, speculation, and user-generated content. Viral marketing campaigns, including behind-the-scenes features and sneak previews, amplified excitement and established emotional investment prior to release. These initiatives not only increased awareness but also fostered early attachment to characters and the narrative world. Merchandising was central to the branding strategy, extending the film's presence beyond theaters and digital platforms. Action figures, plush toys, dragon models, role-playing sets, clothing, and school supplies allowed children to engage with characters interactively, reinforcing narrative familiarity and emotional connection. The toys were often tied to specific scenes or dragon species, allowing fans to recreate flight sequences, battles, and training exercises. These products supported imaginative play, deepening the relationship between audiences and the fictional world, while also providing substantial revenue streams that reinforced the commercial viability of the franchise. Partnerships with major fast food chains and retailers further enhanced brand visibility. Promotional campaigns included themed meal toys, collectible items, and limited edition merchandise, ensuring consistent exposure in everyday contexts. These initiatives encouraged family participation and facilitated shared viewing experiences, as children eagerly associated mealtime or shopping with the film. Cross-promotional strategies extended into consumer products, publishing, and educational materials, establishing the franchise as both entertainment and cultural touchstone. Soundtrack releases contributed to the film's cultural presence and engagement. John Powell's score, along with incidental songs featured in marketing materials, was made available on physical and digital platforms. Fans could relive flight sequences and emotional scenes through music, strengthening the emotional attachment to the story and characters. Cover performances, orchestral renditions, and fan-created content further extended the reach of the musical components, allowing audiences to interact creatively with the film's auditory landscape. This integration of music into marketing and fan activity reinforced narrative themes and character identity. Theme park partnerships provided experiential marketing that bridged digital and physical engagement. Attractions, rides, live shows, and interactive exhibits based on the film allowed fans to immerse themselves directly in the world of Berk and Dragonflight. These experiences recreated key sequences, such as aerial pursuits, dragon interactions, and village life, fostering an emotional and sensory connection with the narrative. Immersive experiences reinforced brand identity, generated ongoing discussion and anticipation for sequels or spin-offs, and encouraged repeat engagement. Global distribution strategies ensured the film reached international audiences effectively. Dubbed versions and localized marketing campaigns preserved narrative integrity while adapting cultural references, dialogue nuances, and promotional materials for regional audiences. International box office success was complemented by culturally sensitive merchandise lines, television broadcasts, and online content, reflecting a cohesive global strategy that maintained the film's thematic, emotional, and narrative appeal across diverse linguistic and cultural contexts. The franchise's branding strategy emphasized continuity and identity across multiple media. Character designs, dragon species, and visual motifs were consistently reinforced through marketing materials, merchandise, interactive media, and sequels. This visual coherence strengthened recognition, loyalty, and emotional attachment, enabling audiences to connect with characters and the world of Berk in multiple contexts. Branding choices reinforced narrative themes, such as friendship, courage, and empathy, aligning commercial strategies with storytelling objectives. Educational tie-ins, books, and activity guides contributed to the franchise's global reach and cultural impact. Young audiences could explore the story world through reading, art, and interactive play, further reinforcing narrative familiarity and emotional attachment. These materials also provided entry points for family discussions about ethics, courage, and problem-solving, demonstrating the film's capacity to function as both entertainment and educational tool. The presence of these extensions reinforced the brand while supporting generational engagement. Social media and digital fan engagement amplified marketing impact. Fan art, cosplay, discussion forums, and user-generated videos were promoted and recognized through official channels, encouraging participation and reinforcing community identity. Online challenges and contests related to dragons, flight, or creativity cultivated loyalty and extended the franchise's cultural presence. These strategies ensured that the film remained relevant beyond initial release windows and engaged audiences continuously across platforms. Cross-media promotion included mobile apps, video games, and interactive experiences that mirrored cinematic sequences. These applications allowed audiences to control dragons, explore Berk, and engage in story-inspired missions, providing both entertainment and deeper narrative interaction. By integrating gameplay with narrative fidelity, the franchise maintained engagement and emotional investment, particularly among younger audiences accustomed to interactive media. Film release timing and strategic placement in cinemas were carefully considered to maximize accessibility for family audiences. Holidays, school vacations, and seasonal marketing campaigns were leveraged to ensure maximum attendance and cultural penetration. International release coordination and staggered campaigns allowed for sustained global visibility, reinforcing the film's status as a worldwide event rather than a localized phenomenon. How to Train Your Dragon occupies a distinctive place within the history of animated cinema, representing both continuity and innovation when compared to earlier classics, contemporary films, and other works by the same studio. Stylistically, narrative-wise, and technically, the film builds on traditions established by pioneering animated works while pushing the boundaries of what computer-generated animation could achieve in terms of emotional depth, world-building, and realism. When compared to traditional hand-drawn animation, such as early Disney classics or stop-motion storytelling, How to Train Your Dragon demonstrates the evolution of visual sophistication, combining photorealistic environmental textures, dynamic lighting, and fluid motion with the emotive expressiveness often associated with hand-drawn character animation. The result is a seamless integration of realism and stylization that allows both dramatic intensity and accessible fantasy. Compared with contemporaneous animated films from Pixar, DreamWorks, and other major studios, the film differentiates itself through the centrality of emotional complexity, non-traditional heroism, and morally nuanced narratives. While many animated films of the time featured overtly confident protagonists or conventional comedic foils, Hiccup represents a quieter, introspective hero whose strength derives from empathy, ingenuity, and courage rather than physical dominance. This subversion of archetypal norms positions the film alongside other modern works that emphasize internal growth and ethical decision-making, yet it maintains universal accessibility through humor, adventure, and fantasy spectacle. The careful balancing of these elements sets the film apart in a competitive landscape of animated family entertainment. Technologically, How to Train Your Dragon distinguishes itself through its depiction of flight and dynamic environmental interaction. The animation of dragon flight sequences is notable for combining scale, fluidity, and emotional resonance, surpassing the standard of previous computer-generated features. The use of virtual camera systems, complex particle effects for wind, water, and weather, and attention to aerodynamic realism contributed to a sense of immersive movement rarely seen in prior animated films. This technological achievement allowed animators to convey freedom, risk, and exhilaration in a manner that supported character development and narrative stakes, elevating the cinematic experience beyond spectacle alone. The visual style and environmental design reflect a sophisticated synthesis of historical inspiration and imaginative interpretation. While drawing from Nordic and Viking motifs for architecture, costume, and cultural symbols, the film reinterprets these elements in a fantastical context, balancing plausibility with creativity. This approach differentiates it from films that lean exclusively on historical accuracy or pure fantasy aesthetics. The village of Berk, dragon habitats, and surrounding landscapes are designed not only to captivate the eye but also to reinforce character arcs, thematic motifs, and narrative tension, demonstrating a thoughtful integration of design and storytelling that is often less pronounced in earlier animated cinema. Musically, the film builds on traditions established by orchestral scores in animation while achieving its own distinct voice. John Powell's score blends sweeping symphonic elements, thematic leitmotifs, and culturally resonant tonalities that underscore emotion, action, and narrative development. Compared to previous animated classics, in which music often functions primarily as accompaniment or overt exposition, Powell's compositions in How to Train Your Dragon are tightly interwoven with character development, plot rhythm, and the psychological experience of flight and adventure. The score's thematic consistency across multiple films in the franchise further distinguishes it as an integral component of world-building and narrative cohesion. Narrative structure reflects a modernized hero's journey, integrating classic archetypal elements with contemporary sensibilities. Hiccup's journey follows the recognizable path of separation, initiation, and return, yet the film subverts conventional expectations by emphasizing intelligence, creativity, and emotional growth over physical conquest. Supporting characters are similarly nuanced, offering a balance of comedy, relational complexity, and ethical reflection. This structure contrasts with earlier animated adventure films that often prioritized external conflict resolution or slapstick humor, highlighting the film's commitment to multi-layered storytelling that engages multiple age groups simultaneously. Thematic comparisons reveal a focus on moral ambiguity, empathy, and relational ethics, setting the film apart from prior adventure-centric animation. Dragons are neither purely evil nor merely fantastical threats. Their behavior reflects instinct, fear, and social dynamics, creating opportunities for moral reflection, conflict resolution, and emotional growth. The human-dragon dynamic allows the exploration of prejudice, understanding, and coexistence in ways that resonate with contemporary audiences. Compared with earlier films in which adversaries are often clearly villainous, How to Train Your Dragon challenges viewers to interpret motivations, reconcile differences, and consider ethical complexity, signaling an evolution in narrative sophistication within the genre. Humor, dialogue, and character voice contribute to the film's distinctiveness. Comedic timing, subtle irony, and multi-generational accessibility distinguish it from both earlier hand-drawn features and contemporaneous computer-animated films. Humor is integrated with plot and character development rather than serving solely as relief or spectacle, reinforcing emotional investment and audience engagement. Dialogue is crafted to convey personality, relationships, and thematic content simultaneously, reflecting a mature approach to screenplay construction that is often more sophisticated than previous mainstream animated films aimed at family audiences. In terms of franchise building, How to Train Your Dragon demonstrates a capacity for long-term narrative and brand development uncommon in earlier animated features. Its sequels, television adaptations, stage productions, and merchandise lines create a cohesive universe that maintains character, thematic, and aesthetic continuity. This approach is comparable to Pixar's strategy with toy-based franchises or Disney princess branding, but is distinguished by the film's commitment to narrative depth, ethical reflection, and character-driven world-building rather than reliance on spectacle or merchandising alone. The franchise model exemplifies how contemporary animation can integrate storytelling, branding, and audience engagement to extend cultural and commercial impact.